wanted to create an investment that excites our investors and the markets that we serve. So what I'm going to do is I am going to share my screen right now and move right into the presentation. As they said, questions are encouraged. And Ryan or Andrew, if I tend to ramble, so if any good questions come along, don't hesitate to stop me, or if there's any general comments or feedback, by all means, but otherwise we'll just dive into the slides. TANSECT, sorry, just moving the icons. TANSECT basically combines innovative proprietary travel technology with unique operations, creating a total leisure experience. So what this really means is we have very innovative products that we pair with operations, but we handle things from end to end. You can book the entire experience and you'll be participating with TANSECT through that experience, which makes us pretty unique from a service perspective. We are a next generation leisure travel company. And what we want to do is we want to utilize our innovative travel tech and tailored flight solutions. And we want to grow into a leading leisure-based company with solutions that are not available anywhere else. So the key thing to this is we are going to be a niche player. You're not going to find us create solutions where there are 10 or 15 companies that could easily replicate this or offer the service that we're offering. We want to focus on the travel niches that are out there and exploit those. We've established some initial goals since incorporating and determining the product and when we're going to roll out the travel tech. And some of those goals is we have a travel agent platform that we'll discuss in a little bit of detail within this presentation. But within 5 years, we want 50,000 paid users on that tool. Within 7 years, we want to become a top 10 promoter of Disney vacations, and we can talk a little bit about how that's going to happen. We want to become a top 20 booking agent of cruise vacations within 10 years. We want to be the only nonstop flight options in key markets where we act as a public charter operator. So if there's one thing I want you to take away from this presentation is we have no intention of becoming an airline, and you're going to see us talk about flights. We are a public charter operator, which means we charter the flights that we want. And we'll talk about that in more detail. And then after this launches, we want to become an active franchisor of the TANSECT operations. And we have key customers that we think would benefit from this, whether they're an underserviced city and the actual city or representatives of that city create a franchise, or a larger investor that wants to bring a specific service to the city that they're affiliated with, but there will be franchising operations as well. Uh, 2021 has been an interesting year for TANSECT. So we incorporated, and we originally had a focus on convertible notes. We incorporated as a Florida C corporation, and the notes that we created had fantastic terms, maybe too aggressive to the point that it might have turned off some potential investors. But the thing that I take away from every meeting is we're pretty much a square peg in a round peg world. And so particularly when funds have very specific criteria that have to be checked off, a lot of times, as interested as a VC or a fund was in our operation, we didn't check all the criteria because of the square peg situation. And what was happening was we stopped coding, we stopped developing, and we were using all of our valuable time focusing purely on VCs and pitches, and we were not getting a lot of traction. And at that point, I was actually still working my day job. I'm married with children, have to have an income, and so I was not in a position where I could leave my day job. And then in May 2021, something unique happened. I had a couple former coworkers and customers call me and say, hey, I know that you've got some tech that you created a lot of years ago, or you've got an expertise that we really need. You know, we know you're starting a company. Could we contract your company on a consulting basis? And it wasn't part of the original business model, but after considering it and moving forward, it's changed the game completely. So now TANSECT is paying salaries, we're generating income, we're covering miscellaneous startup costs, promotional costs. And so that is a key thing, because now I'm working on this full time and my full focus is on TANSECT. And the customers that contracted us, they are already receiving measurable returns that are 25 times their investment. That would tell you that we probably didn't charge enough. I'll give you that. But the main thing is that they're probably going to renew the services. So as we go into Q4, TANSECT is already profitable. We're not making a ton of money, but we're paying salaries, we're profitable. And what we're doing is we are now developing and coding all of these tech products that we had planned, and they're going to roll out. Obviously, with funding, we can promote them, create customer service, and do a lot of other things, but we're moving forward. And as such, what we've decided to do is we've now shifted from a convertible note focus to a Reg D model. And VCs can still invest in the Reg D model. If they invest a lot of money, they still get board positions, they'll get positions of influence. But rather than focus purely on a note where we were looking for a sole investor or one or two large investors, we've really opened this up to a larger base. We're focusing on our product, we're rolling out, and we're hoping that as we generate press from rolling out this tech, investors will come on board. Likewise, we also know that it's going to take a while to find good investor 1, 2, and 3. But based on my past experience with investors, how I run companies and how I run operations, through transparency and everything, investor 1, 2, and 3 will introduce us to 4, 5, 6, and 7, and it'll get the ball rolling. So as such, we're launching our travel agent platform late 2021. It's almost complete, but what I did was I put that on hold because we needed some of the interactive travel guide stuff coded in advance. So that's rolling out in November 2021. And we're still focused on the original plan. But yeah, if we get more opportunities for guaranteed income through consulting, we will certainly consider it. The key thing about our company is we are a total leisure experience. Now, any of these points that I talk about can stand alone. So our technology, I mentioned that if we don't get funding for everything, we're still rolling out the technology. It'll generate income. And as we generate income, we'll move into the hospitality, and then likewise, the flights down the road. And that approach is sort of like getting a locomotive started with just a little bit of coal, but we can do it. But the key thing that I would take away from this slide is that all 3 points, our technology, our travel planning, and our flights, though they can live alone and generate standalone income, combined, the income accelerates. It's just every division feeds each other. So there are customers that our technology will generate, but they might not know about our flights, but the technology can refer them to the flights or the travel planning, and vice versa. So the key thing is even though we've designed everything to operate as a standalone basis, on a standalone basis, everything plays together. And when they play together, revenues skyrocket potentially. Like I said, we're a total leisure experience. So I wanted to share in 2023, based on our planned financials, where we think the money is going to come from. A lot of the tech stuff, because it's scalable and the users will develop a lot of their stuff on their own, it tends to generate higher margins. So you can see the estimated margins by business. And though the margins, obviously the natural thing is let's focus on the higher margins. Well, there are certain aspects of our company that generate more revenue, but a lower margin. So I wanted to provide a snapshot of both. And we can come back to this slide if there's any questions or time permits. Otherwise, this presentation will be available online and will be going out to all attendees. So the technology, some of the key things, it's hosted remotely. It's web and cloud, which means it's web and cloud-based. Everything is pretty much operated on a PHP site. We are currently upgraded to a PHP 8.0, which is the newest version. It improves security for our users, as well as the employees that we have that will use it. The SQL and our customers that use it. We run with SQL databases and queries, and then all tech has been coded by myself. So our development costs, even though you can argue how costs are factored, they're minimal. We're not having to pay significant salaries for development because I've developed everything and coded it. Likewise, I can talk about it if we find potential investors that are really tech-based and they want to deep dive, I can deep dive. And then what we're doing is rather than pull people into the TANSECT site because our customers on the travel agents may not want their customers to know that they're working through TANSECT, what we're doing is we've developed generic non-TANSECT sites to host all this stuff. And the sites are live, even though they're still being developed. So if you go to them, it's a little bit of scaffolding up right now, maybe some broken links here and there. But our sites, all of these programs will be hosted through travelagents.fun for our travel agent platform. We own the domain GoTrip Network, and then we'll develop individual guides through like godisneyworld.com, which we also own, and other domains. We have existing relationships. So our technology, as I said, we're starting to deploy it Q4 of this year. And then what we already have marketing and promotional and affiliate agreements with over 150 companies, including the ones that you see below. So I trust that you recognize some of these logos, and they've reviewed the site through affiliate agreements or promotional agreements, and they think, hey, you know what, there's definitely something going on here. We want to participate, which we're quite honored by that. So the technology, what problems are we solving? So when we sit down and we do a pitch, what problems are we solving, and who's going to use us? Well, the first thing is the travel agent platform. There are over 100,000 home-based travel agents in the United States. And we probably all know one. We see them on Facebook. Maybe we have friends that specialize in cruises, specialize in Disney vacations. So what they do is they actually pay a host travel agency to use their IATA numbers. But when they do that, they don't really get any additional tools to manage their business. So they don't have websites. They have to create their own websites. They have to create their own portals. And if you book by it from them, you might just get a bunch of printouts emailed to you with invoices and itineraries. What we're doing is we've created a platform that will elevate these home-based agents and give them tools that full service travel agencies have. Likewise, their customers will have interactive itineraries that are created by the travel agent, but then their customer can go on top of it and add restaurants that they want to go to, stores, attractions. And so this is going to be a subscription model for $19.99 a month per agent, but we are also developing it as an enterprise option as well, where we can go to these host travel agencies and do a revenue share and say, for every one of your agents you refer to us, we'll do a revenue split. And oh, by the way, instead of charging $19.99 a month, we'll give your agents this service for $15 a month. This is expected to generate $2 to $2.5 million in revenue for every 10,000 members. And it's expected to generate an estimated 30% margin. Likewise, we have the interactive itineraries rolling out. And what this is this is a free online tool where our users can go and they can add their flight information, their hotel information, their car information, and they get everything in a single PDF or through a link that they can share or that they can print out and take with them or save, download onto their phone. And instead of having to carry 100 pieces of paper with hotel confirmations and everything, you can simply just take out the PDF. And when you go to check in, you say, oh, I'm here for hotel reservation 123. This is a free service, but we do have the affiliate relationships where if somebody doesn't have a car or one of these users, it looks like they're going to Fort Myers, it'll say, oh, you're going to Fort Myers. Here are the rental car agencies that we recommend. Obviously, we recommend them because they're paid advertisements or affiliate agreements. We do that with restaurants. We'll do that with attractions. And all of that revenue, we expect to generate a 60% margin. Here's an example of a customized itinerary. I created this for myself. I didn't go in and change any of the icons, but our users for a $3 flat fee will have the ability to change any of these icons into their own personal pictures, or if they want to download a Disney picture or a cruise picture or a picture of them on vacation, they can add it, and they can also create a colorful header and change the colors. But this is an example of the customized itinerary. And then likewise, I said that we're hosting all of our stuff on external pages that we own. So on the left-hand side here, you see the Go Disney World page. On the right-hand side, you see an example of the cover of a city page. And from the city page or the Disney page, you can click on hotels or lodging. you can click on dining, you can click on shopping, and that's where the listings are. And then everything that's on this page, as you create an interactive itinerary, you can just pull it in. So if you see a restaurant on the restaurant page here in Orlando, and you say, oh, I really like this, I love Italian food, I got to try this, you can just click on it and it'll drag into your interactive itinerary, and you can schedule it on any day of your vacation that you have. Likewise, with city guides and Disney pages, we get state and country guides. And so this is an example of our Hawaii page. And so the technology is coming along. Like I said, it's live. There's a lot of scaffolding. If you go to these pages, I want to reiterate that there's broken links right now because we haven't formally deployed it or promoted it. We just code in a live environment because there's not a lot of traffic on there right now until we start promoting it. Likewise, we have a rather intense technology roadmap. Everything in the company is technology based. We've designed the operation to essentially operate from anywhere that has internet activity and somebody has a laptop or a phone. And we call the focal point of our system the TOR system. It stands for the TANSECT Operations and Reservation System. And from there, everything branches out. And we can come back to this page if somebody wants to talk in greater detail. But we do have a rather intense roadmap that's been designed, and all of this functionality, it intertwines and links together. It also goes back to that total leisure triangle where I said everything can stand alone or it plays well together. In order to play well together, we wanted to create a standard platform that has been catered specifically for TANSECT, our customers, and the travel agents that will use us as well. Earlier in the presentation, I said what we do is we take our technology and we pair it with operations. So what problems are we solving with that, and why is that value added? Well, what we want to do is we intend to operate charter flights within niche markets that correspond with our travel bookings, as well as regional jet flights that allow higher income passengers to take flights that bypass TSA in large airports. So I want to reiterate, we're not going to be an airline, but we'll offer flights through charter agreements with carriers. So what we'll do is we'll identify a niche market we want to play in. We'll conduct a bid and we'll say, hey, airlines, this is what we want to do. We want to operate every Saturday with this type of plane. What will you charge us to do that? And from the bids, assuming we get a good bid, we'll implement that operation. Or if we need to tweak it to get better rates, we'll tweak it. I do have a lot of experience or previous experience chartering and marketing, particularly Fort Myers and Orlando. We intend to operate these nonstop charter flights between key markets where they don't exist. And so Fort Myers, as you'll see later in the presentation, is significantly underserviced in my opinion. And then Orlando is always a great opportunity, particularly for our total leisure experience model, because Orlando generates a lot of Disney traffic and Disney pays about a 10% commission on all bookings. So a lot of potential money there on top of the flight revenue. The FBO to FBO, the general flights that we offer, they're going to be available to the general public. All prices are going to be better or equal to the prices that they would pay on existing carriers, where they have to connect through a hub, through Atlanta, Chicago, Detroit, Charlotte, wherever. But the FBO to FBO flights, these are going to be catered more towards higher income passengers. This is where people will be able to bypass TSA. And as a public charter operator, the government lets us charter flights with 30 or fewer seats and operate from an FBO. And an FBO, if you don't know what it is, it's the fixed-based operator. So it's essentially the private hangars that you see at small airports. So one of the things that we're looking at doing is operating flights from Naples, Florida, which is a high demand area, to Chicago suburbs, not Midway, not O'Hare, but to the smaller FBOs in Chicago. We would charge the equivalent price of a first class ticket that they would pay to fly into O'Hare or Midway. But what our passengers get to do is they get to show up at a small hangar 10, 15 minutes before departure, check in, go get on the flight. There's a max of 30 people. So not a lot of, interaction with other people. You can socially distance if you want. And get on this plane that has 30 seats, fly to Chicago, literally bypass TSA, land at the airport, and you can be in the car home in less than 10 minutes after landing. We are going to boost revenue through travel planning commissions and proprietary technology. And I want to state that prior to us promoting any flights or selling tickets, we have to register with the DOT as a Part 380 operator, which is a simple process. But I want to reiterate, for this presentation, I'm not selling tickets. I'm looking for investors. Finally, we have the travel planning. And so what we want to do is we want to pull everything together, and we want to we're not going to have a traditional home office, but what we want to have is small travel planning centers in key cities that will assist our customers as well as boost the revenue of the other points in that total leisure model. So initially, we're looking at a Fort Myers office with Naples as one office where we'll promote the flights that we have planned that we'll talk about. And then we're going to look at building a Disney office, not in Disney Springs, but right off Disney Springs, where our passengers that do fly into Orlando, if they have a problem with their reservation, rather than trying to call home and find the travel agent and, oh, my travel agent's in Chicago, but I'm in Orlando, we will have an office in Orlando that they can go to, and they could take a Disney bus and with a small walk get to that office. In addition, what we want to do is, I myself am a former Disney cast member. I know a lot about Disney, makes me a really good Disney planner. We want to hire Disney cast members in that Orlando office to actually plan the vacations for our guests. From the operations perspective on the flights, what we're looking at initially, and I want to reiterate, this is not like 3 times daily. These are going to be 1 or 2 times weekly experience that I have operating as far as a frequency, and they're going to underserviced markets. So we're not looking at filling 3 large planes a day. This is going to be a weekly flight that we tie to vacations, and we're not going to be an airline. We will outsource our charter. So being non-asset based, it reduces our startup costs. We don't have to be FAA certified. There's a lot that goes into it. And it makes us completely responsive. But initially, what we're looking at once obtaining funding is a Fort Myers to 1 or 2 Midwest locations using an A320 or 737. Service would be weekly. And we want to also offer service to Mexico and the Caribbean. Fort Myers currently, even though they've seen significant growth, has no nonstop service to the Mexico or the Caribbean. People either have to connect through hubs, or people in Southwest Florida have to drive to Tampa, Orlando, or Miami to get these flights. The passengers from the Midwest, we have designed it so they'll be able to connect through Fort Myers. So when a flight leaves the Midwest location, it'll leave with passengers bound for Fort Myers and either Mexico or the Caribbean. Those passengers bound for Fort Myers will get off, and then we'll put on Fort Myers customers that are going to Mexico and the Caribbean. And likewise, those passengers, we hope that they use TANSECT's travel planning services to boost our revenue. We're looking at Naples, Florida to Chicago suburbs 1 time or 2 times weekly with a 30-passenger regional jet. This is really focused on the 14,000 snowbirds that live in the Chicago suburbs that have second homes in Naples and Fort Myers. Also, we're looking at a West Palm area FBO to New York, particularly like a Stewart or another airport closer to the city, as well as Long Island, either Republic Airport or Islip. Once again, priced at the same as a first-class ticket into JFK and LaGuardia, but you get to bypass a lot of this other stuff. And then finally, our first Orlando flight, ironically, we envision it being London Stansted 1 times weekly with an A330 or 767. Significant demand out of the UK. Virgin Atlantic and British Airways only fly out of some of the Scottish locations, Manchester and either Heathrow or Gatwick. There's nothing in the Stansted market, and there's a huge population base there that needs Orlando service. So you might say, okay, this is great, but COVID is going on. Why am I going to do this now? Well, let's talk about what's happening in Florida post-COVID. So the first thing is the census just came out. Lee County, which is Fort Myers, it grew 23% since the last census. Collier County, which is Naples, grew 17%. The area has 1.3 million residents, and this doesn't include the hundreds of thousands of snowbirds that come into the market. Fort Myers Airport is the #1 airport in recovery. There is so much demand right now that their tourism numbers make them #1 in the country as far as recovery. And their Fort Myers Airport, it's exceeding passenger traffic volumes, and their numbers are already 42% higher than 2019. So not only have they recovered from COVID, 42% higher than 2019 pre-COVID. And like I said, why is this a key market for us? Because there is zero opportunity. Our customers, or our potential customers, have no opportunity for nonstop flights right now. from Fort Myers to the Caribbean and Mexico. We want to change that. And the airport has asked us to look into it. We have an existing relationship with members of the airport, and they said, hey, you know, this would be really cool if you guys could do this. Finally, Orlando tourism is starting to ramp back up. It's boosting. It's only 2.2% below 2019, even with the restricted volumes that are operating at some of the parks and some of the canceled services. Like they still don't have character dining and things like that, but they're only 2.2% below where they were in 2019. They're 223% higher than they were in 2020, and they're already 16.3% higher for Q2 than they were in Q1. And the reason that we want to focus on Disney is we have to remember a key part of our technology is designed for the home-based travel agents. The home-based travel agents focus on Disney. And as we grow, our intention is to have these home-based travel agents that use our platform ultimately transfer over to us and become a TANSECT agent that works from their home. Will match what they currently make commission-wise, maybe even exceed it. But this is how we are going to become one of the top 10 Disney providers within 7 years. It's not just organic growth, we're going to really create really good platforms and relationships with these agents, and we'll make it so they want to sell Disney vacations through our IATA number. Our pricing and profitability, we're based on a 70% load factor, which means everything above 70% on the flights is considered profit. And our investors are expected to be able to get flight benefits through investor tickets that are viewed as sort of a paid dividend. But we are going to reserve at least 6 seats on every flight for our customers. And we can talk more about these pricing if somebody wants to, and we can deep dive on that. And here's an example of Fort Myers to a Midwest city. This is based on my past experience. I've operated lanes like this before. We sort of envision 104 annual flights. So that means round trips on every Saturday. During the winter, we'd have some Wednesday flights, not a situation where we're doing 3 flights a day from this small city to Fort Myers. You'll see specific peaks. This is spring break. This is as the holidays go, and then people are traveling back and forth for Thanksgiving and Christmas. There is a decline in demand for Fort Myers from the Midwest in August, September, October. Expect losses. However, if we pair this with a Cancun flight, these can be offset, or we might consider not operating the flights. Once again, this is the advantage of being a public charter operator that charters planes and not an airline that operates an airline. We don't have a $70 million asset that we need to keep moving 12 to 18 hours a day. We can go to an airline and say, okay, in these months, we want to operate a larger plane and we want to do it 2 round trips a week. During these months, we want the smallest plane possible that you have. What will it take to reduce our costs? Or we may just stop flying in this lane, August, September, and October. But once again, we don't have planes that we have to keep moving. We just charter what's available on the market and go from there. A top priority, we want to build a stellar team. We are going to be a company of empowerment, and we want our agents and our managers to do what's best for our customer, but be very well versed in how the company operates so they make the best decisions possible. And we can talk more about our team if there's questions. Myself, I'm 44 years old. I've got additional information in the offering document. I have my LinkedIn profile. I have an undergraduate from Georgia Southern University and a master's in supply chain with a focus on air transport from Cranfield University from Bedford, England. My thesis was actually enhancing underserviced markets with charter flights. So I have a published thesis that focuses on exactly what this business model is circled around. I have experience. I'm an operations person and an engineering person, as well as an IT person. I have experience in transportation, air carriers, oil and gas, technology, engineering, supply chain, and I've been working since 1999. I do have Part 380 charter flight operation, particularly with 737s from 2012 to 2014. Have operations experience. I've implemented multiple operations. So from an implementation point of view, we already have the project plan for our entire implementation developed. We just need to put the dates in there that are tied to financing. I've managed budgets in excess of $100 million, and I do have significant experience. I don't want to say significant. I have experience conducting Regulation D, 504s, and 506s. Also, Lean certified, Bronze certified, Six Sigma, I'm Green Belt. So I feel like I bring a nice mix of funding, leadership, IT, and operations to the table. From our marketing approach, we're going to use different types of marketing approaches for each of the different lines of business. Obviously, this will be somewhat fluid, but we have a lot of experience. I have a lot of experience promoting these flights and growing customers organically. The 506C. As previously stated, we were originally doing a custom convertible note. We shifted to a Reg D. VCs are welcome to purchase shares. Like I said, if we have a large investor, they're going to get board of director seats. They're going to get the ability to control the business, but we didn't want to limit it to a single investor anymore. We've set the lower minimum investment at $10,000. We hope we attract investors of all types. You do have to be an accredited investor to purchase shares. The total offering that we're offering is going to represent 80% of the TANSECT equity, but we're only doing the total offering as an initial launch, but where our focus is on a smaller portion of that total offering right now. And the focus is on the initial $5 million. And the $5 million will launch everything that we have planned. And then the additional funding will be for growth and other opportunities. Our share purchase price is scheduled to increase to reward early investors. And then we are going to focus on investor ROI. But we also want to develop a company that our investors love owning. We want them to brag about us. We want them to take great pride in their ownership. Investors that live near our service cities, they're going to love the proposed flight benefits. And those are spelled out in the offering document. Aviation fans that we get complete transparency, and they'll be able to be a part of this operation from the ground up. That's the bids, the route planning, everything that comes along with it. We'll provide complete transparency to investors. Annual meetings, it'll also be a networking operation. So instead of having one or two large investors, there's going to be a multitude of investors, and we could turn this into a nice event held somewhere in Florida, or maybe held in the next service city that we choose. We'll give precedence to comparable price suppliers that are investors. So if we have an investor that supplies business supplies and they're comparably priced, obviously we will give them precedence over another company. And then we want to develop, and like I said, there's an advantage of having multiple investors. And what we want to do is we want to develop a powerful investor base that can provide valuable insight and expertise. And our investors can be as involved or uninvolved as they want. So I don't want to make people think they have to be actively involved, but if they want to be, they can be. But overall, I liked having the idea of an investor base that says, hey, I'm looking for real estate in West Palm Beach. Any recommendations? What neighborhoods should I avoid? What neighborhoods do we think will have the best traffic for what we're trying to do? That is priceless. Our plan use of proceeds broken out here. The key thing that you'll get this, and I can talk about it in detail. The key thing that I want you to know is we have our costs analyzed. It's not audited. I want to be very clear. We haven't had accounting audit our financials, but we have spent a lot of time developing our financials and our use of proceeds. And more importantly, I've implemented charter flights before. I've implemented operations before. I'm very comfortable on what IT is going to cost. I'm very comfortable making assumptions about what it'll cost to operate flights. And so this is our first 5 million. What I've done is, okay, we don't get 5 million right out of the gate. How do we spend our first million? How do we spend our second million? How do we spend the rest of the 5 million? And that is broken down in detail as well. And then the initial 5 million, what will it fund? It'll fund all travel agent portal startups costs, the marketing, customer support, all customized itinerary startup costs. It'll give us our travel planning centers. Remember, we're not going to have a home office. So we're going to have travel planning centers where travel agents work, as well as customer service and anyone that we hire. We're looking at Orlando, Chicago, Tampa, Fort Myers, and even Miami. And these are to correspond with the vacations that we plan and to give us a presence in the market. So like I said, the Orlando one will allow our customers that travel to Orlando through our travel planning services to have a live office or a live person in an office they can go visit if they have questions or problems. Tampa, cruises. Miami, cruises. Fort Myers, This is the key because we're going to use Fort Myers as a connecting point for our Cancun and Caribbean service. It'll allow the deployment of the travel planning division. That's all the travel planners and travel agents that'll work on a commission base, the hiring and development of teams. So I'm currently coding. As we grow, I want to step away from the coding. I want to be involved with it, but we need to bring on people that will continue ongoing development and development of new products. The charter flights, Fort Myers to Mexico, Fort Myers to the Caribbean. Like I said, not daily, not 3 times daily. We're looking at 1 time a week to pair with Caribbean vacations or Mexico vacations. Fort Myers to the Midwest, the Naples to Chicago suburbs, the West Palm to New York suburbs, Orlando, that should say MCO, not MSO, I apologize, to London Stansted. It'll allow us to complete our IATA certification, start the franchise program, further development of queued products. We have about 25 products that we have in mind after we roll these out. And then operating capital to ensure that we don't run out of money before we can get levels to profitability. And then the promotion of additional shares. Here's how we intend to spend the remaining funds that we generate. Key thing that I want you to see here is, as I said, we intend to reward earlier investors. So this is the planned purchase price based on our planned growth and revenue. And so those investors that invest earlier, we make the assumption they assume the greater responsibility. They get a better price. They get to turn their shares probably a little bit quicker. And then we have estimated financials. Like I said, these will go out, but you will see the realistic growth as well as assumptions and growth plans by each division as well as our costs. So that being said, Ryan, I will turn that over to you.
All right. Thank you for the presentation, Mike. Very well thought out. Very nice there. Do have one question. I think it was asked before. You mentioned the London portion, but is the focus on domestic versus international travel?
So the primary focus, and I'm still sharing my screen. I've minimized everything. So up here we go. So the focus is on the niche lanes that make sense. So the nice thing is from a domestic or international perspective, because we're the charter operator, there's some slight nuances, but really the airlines go through the certification process as required to sell the tickets. So we're not governed by the FAA, we're governed by the DOT. So our primary focus is actually going to be domestic. It just so happens in the Orlando lane, when I look at the volume right now, there's a couple things going on with Orlando. There's such an influx or gluttony of planes that airlines are actively adding Orlando. And I don't feel that there's a lane that I want to spend money in implementing domestically until this settles down and those planes start getting deployed elsewhere. That being said, London Stansted has huge demand for Disney. So Disney is just sort of a unique opportunity in the fact that we went international. Our primary focus is going to be domestic.
Great, thank you for that. Next question. Does the company work with airline consolidators to secure the best price tickets, particularly internationally?
So no, we don't need, we are chartering the whole plane. So from a travel planning perspective, we will book, if we're just travel planning in a lane that we don't offer a flight, we will simply book the flight just like a travel agent would. You may or may not use a travel consolidator for that. What you tend to do is if you have a large party, you go to the airline and you negotiate. In the lanes that we offer the flights, we don't need to work with a consolidator. We are chartering the entire plane. We set the ticket prices. If we want to give our customers an advantage over other customers, we can do that because they're buying a Cancun vacation or they're buying a Disney vacation. So let's give them a break on airfare. We can do that. We don't need to work with the consolidators. Now, what we can do is we can also become a consolidator, and outside travel agencies like Bob's travel agency in somewhere Midwest, if they have customers that want the nonstop flights to Fort Myers, they can come to us and they can negotiate with us to get a better rate. But as far as us being a consolidator versus using a consolidator, we won't use a consolidator because we charter the whole flight.
All right. Well, those were the questions we had. If anyone has any last minute questions they'd like to add, please feel free to do so. Oh, we just got one. Just came up. All right. Here we go. Several smaller or more nimble carriers have popped up over the past couple years, including a new David Neilman startup. These airlines are focused on point-to-point travel where lanes are less competitive or where competition is connecting versus nonstop. How do you stay one step ahead?
Yeah, so there's a couple ways that we do this. Number one, David Neeleman is my business hero. He is a guru when it comes to startups. And if you're not familiar with him, perhaps you've heard of JetBlue, WestJet, Azul. He was also a Southwest executive for a little bit. So he has recently started up a new airline called Breeze, and he is focused on point-to-point underserviced markets, got a really good price on some used aircraft, and he's also got new aircraft coming in with the form of the A220s. The markets that he services, he is still sort of operating in a focus city approach. So if he goes to a market, he doesn't intend to just fly one flight from that market. He's building 5 or 6 lanes out of that market. So it gives us a little flexibility to see what he's doing, maybe a little bit of lead time, although he's very good at keeping things hush hush. Like I said, we are not owning the planes. We are going to charter them. So if we find a situation where we have direct competition and we feel like we're going to become unprofitable in that lane, we can turn that off and we can turn the city off or change it very easily. So we are a little bit more nimble, even more nimble than the new nimble carriers. And we already seen a Velo has come out and they're really strong with Florida out of their New Haven, Connecticut base. But once again, it's from one base going to multiple cities. The other thing that I would say is because of our travel planning centers, we are going to have a local presence. And to a lot of people, we're going to look, feel, and smell like a local company. So if we open a small travel planning center somewhere in the Midwest that we operate flights out of, we're going to take out ads in the local high school football programs. We're going to have signs at the stadiums. We're going to have local advertising. We're going to have local people. We're going to have a local office that people can go to. And believe it or not, there are a lot of people that don't trust the internet still and still like talking to a live human being. So they can do this via phone. And if they call in, they're going to talk to Sue, and Sue just happens to live, when they start talking, yeah, I live, in blah, blah, blah. Oh, that's right down the road. Or they'll come into the office and see that we have a local presence. I know from past experience, and I wholeheartedly believe that the local experience with that travel office will give us a competitive advantage over anybody that operates there. I'm not going to say it's a foolproof plan. And then the next question is going to be, well, if you have a travel planning center, what happens when you pull the service if you do get direct competition? We have to remember a travel planning center also serves as an office for employees, but we can continue booking vacations. Just because we might not have a flight to Orlando does not mean that there's not an entire city of people that are willing to go to Orlando, book their Orlando trip through us. And sure, we'll book them on Frontier, Breeze, whoever. Just because we don't offer flights doesn't mean that there's not an advantage for that city.
Great. Thank you for that. We do have another one here. What advantages do you envision offering to at-home agents to switch from Sabre to TANSECT? What is the economic benefit to the agent to transfer?
So the thing is they will still use Sabre. Sabre is a booking tool, but they don't have a tool that allows them to manage their commissions, see their customer activity on all levels. What we're offering is a platform where they get complete visibility to their company. They are still going to use Sabre to book on an airline or to book a hotel. Those are not going away. We are not a reservation system. We are a platform that allows agents to manage their business like a traditional agency does. And even if they came and worked with us, unless they were booking on TANSECT, we would still use Sabre. We have a travel planning division. We use the Disney booking engine. We use Sabre. We use Amadeus. We use Carnival system. We use Norwegian system. We book directly through those and we still use those. The question is, okay, great. I get the itinerary from Sabre. Now, how do I present it to my customer? Do I just send them the Sabre printout and they get to see everything Sabre? Or do I now get a platform where I can present it and it's got my agency logo on it. It's got my colors on it, and it only has information that I want them to see. They don't necessarily need to see commissions. And so they get all of this operating platform. We are not changing who they book through.
All right. Well, very good. I don't see any other question unless someone has another question they want to throw in there.
I would like to thank everybody for attending today. I hope that you see that we're trying to do some innovative and exciting things in the leisure market, particularly as we come out of COVID. I understand that this investment might not be for everybody, but nothing beats word of mouth. So as this presentation gets emailed to you afterwards, if it's not for you, please share it. It's an exciting investment. And like I said, we were very specific about lowering the minimum investment in order to attract a multitude of different investor types, because a multitude of investor types will make us amazingly powerful when it comes to knowledge and just the force behind us. And so we hope that this investment is something that you would consider. If it is not something that you would consider, we hope that you please share it with somebody that might be interested. Plus, all information relating how to purchase shares, there's links on the presentation, but we also have a place on our TANSECT site, www.tansect.com, where you can get the forms to purchase shares as well.
Awesome. Well, thanks again, Mike, and thank you everybody for tuning in. Like I said, everyone here will get an email confirmation with the recording of the presentation and all that information as well.
Awesome. Thank you for everybody for attending.
Thank you, everyone.